Hi again, everybody. I hope everybody had a great holiday and is ready to put in some more work this week. We are still going to be making observations, but we are going to be digging a little bit deeper. Our goal is now to get a good handle on why we do some of the things we do, especially as they relate to food. So one more week before we make any huge changes to our food intake, which is probably a good thing, as we will each have to take some time to get back into our regular routines after this crazy holiday that can shift things around a bit. So the first thing that we're going to focus on this week is our habits. We're going to try to specifically identify some of them. Habits become habits because there is a trigger and a reward. And these triggers, that could be time of day, location, our emotional state, whatever, become paired with rewards in our brains, and before long, our brain looks for or craves the reward as soon as we experience the trigger. Last week we journaled what we ate, what was going on around us when we ate it, as well as what time of day we ate. And the first thing I want you to do this week is take a look at last week's journal and kind of notice what patterns you see. Do you eat something at the same time every day? What's going on anytime you're eating something good or something bad? Do you have different eating habits in different locations? Do you tend to overeat when you're surrounded by a particular person? There are a ton of different triggers you can have. I want you to identify yours and write down the food-related habits that follow them. Once we've got that done, all the real work can begin. So anytime you engage in one of these habits that you've identified, I want you to write down what reward you're getting for it. So, for example, I told you I almost always pour a glass of wine as soon as I get home from work each day. The habit is pouring the wine as soon as I get home, and the reward is the relaxation after a day at work and a long commute. I've also noticed that I snack on candy at work, but only when I'm doing something mundane and want a break. The habit is snacking when I'm bored, and the reward is breaking up the monotony of the day. So I hope you can see where I'm going with this. I want you to think about it, but try not to get too far ahead. The goal of this activity is just to simply become aware of the choices that we make, not really much more at this time. The next thing we're going to do is pay attention to the physical impact that the foods and drinks we consume can have on our bodies and our minds. So if you think about it, there's really no way that food can't have an incredible impact on our bodies. It's basic chemistry. Food is fuel, plain and simple. Its purpose is to keep us alive, and that happens via a series of chemical reactions that turn the food we take in into usable energy within our bodies. So just like different chemicals can cause different reactions in the world, like bleach takes the color out of fabric, but vinegar doesn't, different foods create different effects within our bodies. This week, I want you to add another item to your journal that maybe on the surface doesn't sound like it has anything to do with food, but in the end, very well may. So we all have them, physical or emotional symptoms we wish would go away. For me, it's my chronic back pain and my digestion issues. So for others, you could be headaches, joint pain, trouble sleeping, irritability, acne, trouble focusing, whatever. Pick a symptom that bothers you particularly, and we're going to track it. You're going to document your symptom on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being terrible and 1 being non-existent. You're going to need to decide the frequency with which you document your symptom. Something like digestion or acne might only need to be documented once a day, while a headache or irritability could be documented all day long. So if you have a symptom that could potentially change on an hourly basis, I recommend logging it each time you take in your food or drink, just so that you have a consistent period of documentation. Be open to learning how different foods may or may not impact this symptom. Feel free to make notes about it, but right now we're still observing, nothing more. You might feel inclined to make immediate changes when you notice these things, but try not to do them, at least not in any formal fashion. If you notice, for instance, that chocolate makes your headaches worse and you organically seem to stay away from it for the rest of the week, that's fine, but don't actively force yourself to avoid it, because quite frankly, if it's been going on for this long, one more week isn't going to kill you. Just hang in there, pay attention to what your body is telling you. The next thing that we're going to do is an activity that actually isn't even my activity. It's taken from a workshop called Playing Big, created by a life coach named Tara Moore. FYI, she has a book titled the same thing, Playing Big, which I totally recommend to anybody I know. Her point is that we all know what is best for ourselves. Sometimes we just don't quite know how it all fits together into a bigger picture. We already have everything we need inside of us to create the life we want. Sometimes we just need a little help pulling it all out. So this is a guided visualization, and the goal here is to call to mind the person that Tara Moore has dubbed our inner mentor, so that she can show us what our bigger picture looks like, and then we can learn how to utilize all of the tools that we already have inside of us to help build our ideal life. So in the documents section of the Facebook page, you'll find an audio file titled Tara Moore Playing Big Guided Visualization. Go ahead and download the file to play whenever you're ready. It's probably going to take you about 20 minutes, so set aside time in the first couple of days of the week to sit with this activity. All you're going to need to do is just push play on the audio file, close your eyes, and follow along. Don't worry right now about how all of this is going to play into our workshop as you're doing it. Please just open your mind and see what you learn, whether it has to do with your career or your home or your relationships or your food. Take it all in and use your journal to write down any observations, ideas, notes, or whatever that you think of as you move throughout your week. Quite frankly, it's an amazing activity, and I cannot wait to hear what you all take from it. So we'll come back to what we've learned from this later in the week. And now lastly, I have a bit of a lecture for you. This was something I was going to go over this week anyways, but after working with you guys over the past 7 days, I am even more convinced that now is the time that we need to have this conversation. We need to talk about our negativity towards ourselves. So until someone pointed it out to me, I had absolutely no idea how hard on myself I am. And then I immediately started to notice that it isn't just a me thing, it's a woman thing. We minimize ourselves, we beat ourselves down, we tell ourselves we aren't worthy, we qualify our statements, we stand strong for a minute and then knock our own feet from underneath ourselves. So I want you to pay close attention to me here. You are fucking awesome. You do not ever need to apologize for being yourself. You are not bad at anything. You don't suck at anything. You aren't lazy or slovenly or weak. And until we start believing that we are awesome, making and sustaining changes is going to be very difficult. So as a part of our challenge for this week, I want us to catch ourselves when the little negative voice pops into our heads. Because we are so used to this negativity, we often don't even notice that we're thinking it, let alone reacting to it, which we really do. So in an effort to help us all start to notice our little negative voices, I want you to look for a few things. Qualifying statements. Things like, this is just my 2 cents, or you may have more experience than me, but, or I could be on the wrong path here, but. We do this because we're trying to be polite and because these qualifiers allow a way out if someone disagrees with us. Quite frankly, they should be stricken from our vocabulary because all they do is diminish what we have to say. This is a very subtle form of telling yourself and the rest of the world that you don't deserve to be taken seriously, and we need to make that change. The second thing to be on the lookout for is self-deprecating humor. This is another defense mechanism that we use all the time. If we're the first person to make fun of ourselves, we feel as though we are taking the power away from those around us who could be thinking the same thing. Like, ha, I beat you to it, so you can't hurt me. Well, do you know what else happens when you're the first person to make fun of yourself? It takes the power away from you as well. If we are the people telling those around us that we are not to be taken seriously, then why should they believe anything else? So that's something else to be on the lookout for. And this is my favorite, / not favorite, the flat out belief that we are not worthy. And I hate this one because it's so damaging. You want to talk about taking power away from yourself. There is no faster way to do it. Some of these statements are so ingrained in our brains that to us there's no other option. I'm just not someone who can do that. I suck at this. I will never be a person who can blah, blah, blah. I have no willpower. I'm just lazy. I am telling you now that there is always a choice. I could say, I'm not a fashionable person. I never have been and never will be. Or I could say, I'm a person who chooses to spend minimal time and money on fashion. I dislike shopping, and I would much prefer to be comfortable than wearing the perfect, most put-together outfit. And I sincerely admire women who choose to do otherwise. From both statements, you can infer that you will not often see me dressed to the nines, and that I typically only buy new clothes out of necessity rather than for fun, which is very true. However, in the first statement, I'm telling the world that I don't have a choice. In the second statement, the power is mine, as in, if I wanted to change this aspect of my life, I could and I would. We have the power to control every action we take, and we have the power to choose actions which add up to new habits. Creating new habits can be life-changing. So your final challenge for this week is to turn down the negativity, pay close attention to the things you say to yourself as well as about yourself, and if nothing else, just note it. If the mood strikes, you can use your journal to write a little bit about it, but simply acknowledging the negativity gives you the opportunity to take that power back. And the moment we start to rewrite our own stories in this way is the moment we open the door to making the real, sustainable, healthy changes we are looking for. So, that being said, what are you going to be doing this week? Here's a quick overview. I want you to continue journaling your food as you did last week with the time, what's going on around you while you're eating. Continue to have a snack to fulfill a lacking area in your life wheel. You can either keep it the same or change it up, whatever it is you need in this moment. Go through last week's journal and notice your habits. Look for things like specific times, locations, people, or feelings surrounded in the food choices you make, and then list these habits out. Moving forward for the week, you're going to add to your journal what you're getting from each of these food-determined habits. Then you're going to determine which physical or emotional symptoms you're going to track and how often you'll track it. Add that to your journal as often as necessary throughout the week. You're going to complete the Tara Moore Playing Big guided visualization, and you're going to pay special attention to your negative voices, work to turn the volume down on them a bit this week, and remember, you are amazing. I have put together a list of all this week's activities and a sample food journal in the document for the week, so good luck and enjoy. We'll be checking in.